What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Sophisticated Man podcast. I am joined by another guest today, Mr. Dylan. What's going on, man?
Man, I'm doing my thing. How are you, Tino?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just another busy day, another busy weekend, but we're grinding through it for sure.
You got to stay aligned with what matters most to you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely right. Which is why, I love dedicating time to stuff like this, like content, collabing with other creators. For the people that don't know you or might not be too familiar with your work, kind of give a quick little introduction about what it is that you do, who you are and why you got into what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm a high performance coach. I mostly specialize in helping coaches and athletes get their physical and their mental performance at the highest level possible. That way they can live the life that they want and not the life that's been handed down to them, as most people choose. At the end of the day, my ultimate goal is to be able to help anybody, no matter what line of work you're in, get your dream life as well. But that all starts with becoming a higher performance man. So that's why I believe that what I'm doing, what you're doing, share a lot of commonalities, and I really respect what you're doing as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I love collabing with creators on a similar vibe. You seem to have a lot of good things to say about like performance and mindset, especially. I was looking through your page and you talk a lot about like mindset, morning routines, like systematic approaches to self-improvement, which is dope because that's kind of my vibe as well. And I wanted to maybe start off with a question when it comes to self-improvement, when it comes to having a more fulfilling life. In your opinion, based on your experience and just the things you've done in the last several years, what have you found to be like how would you define fulfillment? Like I know a lot of people might not know what that means. Like what would you say that is for you?
That's a really good question because I think fulfillment is the end goal for most people, whether they realize it or not. People say they want money. People say that they want, uh, you know, relationships, this, that, and we're all searching for a certain amount of fulfillment. And I don't think you can truly have fulfillment unless you've reached a certain level of freedom as well.
Mm,
So freedom is not it's not where you are or how much money you make. Freedom is a mind state that you must get yourself to. If you have freedom in your life, then fulfillment is going to follow quite naturally.
mm. I definitely resonate with that. I love how you tied the concept of freedom to fulfillment. I do agree with that. I think you have to it's not so much like what you have in your life, it's who you are when you have what you have and how you process that, how that adds value to what you're doing. Yeah, I think fulfillment is huge and a lot of guys um they almost don't know much about that. They don't really talk about fulfillment. We talk about, the instant gratification, the pleasure seeking stuff. It's very short, very quick. Fulfillment to me is more of like a long-term process. It's something that takes time, takes years even to get to that level of, abundance and freedom, at least in my opinion. Um, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's three levels to fulfillment. I think at the beginner level, and this is basically the level that you would start at if you have no idea what to do to
Mm,
gain a certain sense of fulfillment in your life. A lot of people don't feel fulfilled at all. And
true.
if you're in this position, like I don't want you to panic because you can get yourself out of this quicker than you think.
Hmm.
Um, it comes down to figuring out who you truly are as a person. So you need to figure out what it is that you feel most tied to um, in terms of your personality, your interests, basically finding the thing that you love doing more than anything else. If you don't know what that is, you have to start looking at what you're naturally talented at or inclined towards. Um, because fulfillment comes from doing something that is very, very close to your soul, almost spiritual to you, where you feel almost like you were put here to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you only figure out what that is through a lot of life experience, through trying different things and realizing what you seem to be best at, right? And when you've done that, that's when you can make a serious impact. And that I think is the second level to fulfillment is impact. Um, when you are making an impact on other people's lives as well as your own, it is the greatest source of fulfillment that you can possibly get as a human being. And
Hmm.
if anybody ever tells you anything differently, they are wrong, because it is the highest form of fulfillment that you can receive, is
That's
to give.
facts.
And then I think that unless you have one and two figured out, you can't get to the third level, which is true um, spiritual and mental freedom. So
Mm.
I think that's kind of like the gateway to getting there. But then freedom really comes into play when you realize that you are capable of anything. You are more powerful than any obstacle that you have faced in your life, and therefore the world is yours.
Mm. I like how you broke that down, like the three different levels of fulfillment. That's good. I like that. Like you gotta start with the level one, which is to me, it sounds a lot like having that self-awareness. And I've said before too on my channel, like self-improvement can't really like take shape until you have like self-awareness. Like you need to know who you are and start working on the things that you naturally know you're good at or know you're not good at, or you have an inclination to discover certain things, or you have a curiosity that you might want to follow. Talk about that for a second, like because I don't think that's really talked a lot about when it comes to like the self-improvement industry. Like we always talk about go, 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 grind, 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 do this and do this. But there's a lot of discovery, I think, that happens before even you get to that point. You have to know like, okay, what do I even like? Like what am I even naturally good at? What are my weaknesses? I think there needs to be a certain level of like self-understanding, to even go about that journey and receive some type of freedom. What are your thoughts on that?
I like that you brought that up. Self awareness is probably one of the most important skills that you'll develop in your life.
For sure.
Um, Here's the thing, right? Unless you have a lot of experience in life, self awareness is going to be a bit of a problem for you.
Mm,
Um, what I mean is that to tell somebody that they need to become more self-aware, that person is going to start picking out every single thing that he sees in himself or herself that they think could be better. And by doing that, um, you've become almost more mistrusting in yourself. I think
mm,
everybody has a certain ability to be the best version of themselves inherently. And the more that we doubt in that ability, the more we're going to hit roadblocks. I don't think the key is to focus on self awareness per se, but to focus on gaining more life experience. Because the more
mm,
life experience you gain, the more you're going to become aware of your own inner discrepancies.
mm.
And that's something that even I've seen men at the top have to go through too, like a challenge that they've had to come back to the drawing board and repeat. So
Sure.
don't think that just because you're in a worse position that you're somehow bound to be like, you know, far behind. Um, there's people that are just starting out that might have more of a gravitational pull towards them, or more energy and more charisma than somebody that's been doing it for a long time. And I think the reason for that is because at any point you can lose that self-awareness, right?
Hmm.
So when I talk about life experience, I'm not just talking about going out and talking to as many people as possible, but also being aware of yourself in every given moment and realizing how you're coming across.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. There's different levels to self-awareness, I think, even like in itself. And I like how you kind of combine the life experience with the self-awareness. I think those two things really do go hand in hand. Um, in your opinion, how important is it to develop some of those thoughts for yourself to like to kind of get a sense of, your own really your paradigm in a sense. How important do you think it is to spend time by yourself? That's something I try to promote a lot in my channel. Like for men to like spend time alone, like take yourself out to dinner, take yourself to the movies, go on adventures by yourself, because that's what I think you find the most discovery is when you're enjoying your own company and you're kind of expanding your consciousness that way. How do you think that kind of plays into it, if at all?
Dude, 100%. I think the man who spent more time with himself and alone
Mm.
um, has a deeper grasp of what life really is. And I
True.
think that's probably one of the best things that you could have, right?
Mm.
Is like a genuine understanding of how life works. And that comes a lot faster when you have to spend time, when you're forced to spend time alone. When I
Mm.
was 18, 19 years old, I moved out from home and I left the country. So I'm from Canada. I left and I lived in California for about a year, and then I ended up moving around the states for a bit. I lived in Iowa, Las Vegas. What I gained from that experience, traveling completely alone, I had nobody that was really willing to uproot themselves the way I did. Um, I learned what being alone is all about, and being alone is about finding yourself. Now, if you have found yourself, the necessity to be alone, you know, it's not as important as it once was, right? At that point, it's about sharing your knowledge with others and becoming, living a happy and fulfilled life, like we talked about.
Hmm.
But I think unless you've truly found yourself, um, doesn't matter how many people you spend time around, there's always going to feel like there's something missing because you haven't found you yet. Um, and before I let you, I want to hear what you have to say about this too. But to expand on that, don't think that you have to cut everybody off just to be alone, because it's a
Mm.
skill in itself to be able to sit around others, to be in a room where there are other people around you and still embrace the idea of being alone.
Hmm.
That's something too that I think is important.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure. Like there's a big difference between being like alone as in isolating yourself and being away from people, but also almost like being alone in the crowd. Like you're still by yourself, but you're not completely alone. Like there's people around you. And I think both honestly are important. Like you do need to kind of have some time where you do need almost that peace of mind where like you don't have people around, you just have no outside influence. You're just kind of gaining your own momentum that way. But then you do need to like reinsert yourself into society and kind of like be a functioning person, but like be around people um even on your own. Because I think most people, it's like human nature. The default is like, hey, I'm gonna go to this concert or I'm gonna go to this event, I'm gonna go do this and this, but they always think to bring a friend. And not every time your friend's gonna be into the same things you're into, they might not resonate with what you're trying to do. And some guys will be like, ah, well, screw it. My friends can't go, my girlfriend can't go, my whatever, my family can't go, then I just won't go. But I've always been like, well, just screw that. Like if you want to go, like go for it. Like no one has to join you if they don't want to do the same thing. Like you can enjoy your own time in those events anyway. So I think you definitely need both.
What do you think made you different that way? Because I know, because I think that's like a really virtuous quality to have, but not everybody starts off with that. Was that something that you had to develop, that like confidence to be able to go out by yourself, or was that something that you feel you innately had?
Oh, I 100% had to develop that because I literally was that guy who was like, oh, well, if my friends don't want to go see this movie or they don't want to go to this sporting event, then I guess I just won't go because no one's available. So I had to literally like pull myself into those situations and learn to just enjoy being. 'Cause I almost like think of it like dating yourself, like you're taking yourself out and you're just enjoying your time. I remember the first time I went to a concert all by myself one time, and that was a hell of an experience. I ended up getting my tickets, sitting with the crowd, and I wasn't like I was alone, but I wasn't like by myself because I still made connections when I was there, talked to the people next to me, talked to the people next to me, and it was an amazing moment. Like it was an artist that I generally like to see, but nobody was available. So I was like, all right, screw it. I'm gonna go myself because it's somebody I wanted to genuinely see and I had free time. So I was like, why not? And it ended up being a really, really cool experience. But to the average person, something like that would be like, whoa, like concert by yourself? Like that's crazy. That's weird. But it's really not. I mean, it's actually a really fun thing to do. So I've just become accustomed to doing stuff like that. I would love to do that again. I haven't done that since maybe a couple years ago when I had more concerts in town. But yeah, I've had to train myself, like take myself to the movies, go to the lunch by myself, um, have a solo trip. I went to a conference once in another state and just had like an Airbnb, stayed out there for a few days, and then went to this conference. And yeah, that stuff like that, you just grow so much as a person.
And I'm sure you learned from that experience the way I did, which is that when you do go out alone, the experience that you come back with, like the memory that you create,
Yeah.
is always way better.
Yep.
You know, when you were talking about meeting different people there and making these connections on your own,
Yep.
it's such a more powerful feeling than when you go out. When you go out with your group of friends, you have something to you have a safety net, right? For a lot of people use
Exactly.
that as something to lean back on, and therefore they don't actually go out and build connections with other people because they already have their safety net. But when
Hmm.
you force yourself to go into that environment alone and forge those connections, you always get a much more powerful experience out of it.
You do. You do. It's like fight or flight. I mean, at that point, like it's
Mm.
either have fun or like be that guy in the corner sipping a drink, not talking to anybody. And nobody wants to be that guy.
Yeah, and people respect you for it.
Yeah, 100%.
I remember I did that a lot when I first moved out to Toronto, where I live now.
Hmm.
I knew nobody out here, but
Hmm.
this I think is really uh fundamental to having the confidence to go out on your own,
Absolutely.
because me and you, we have a mission in life, right? We know that we can do stuff like that, especially if it ties into our mission.
Hmm.
Um, what I think is fundamental for having the confidence for other guys or anybody to go out and do what we do is to have some kind of goal that is deeply driving them. So when
Hmm.
I moved to the city, I knew I had to build my network and make friends, and I was in the dating scene as well. So that goal, that mindset of like I know what I need to do, I'm not going to let anything stop that from happening. That's what
Hmm.
drove me to do things that I was really afraid to do, because at the end of the day, I knew the mission behind it. So
Hmm.
even if I had that sick feeling in my stomach of like I'm about to go out alone, I don't know anybody here, I'm in this new city, I'm scared, I'm nervous. Um, instead of choosing to um, instead of choosing to kind of like just fall back and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay in and hope that things work out. What drove me to actually go and put myself out there anyway was knowing what I wanted out of life, and knowing that it was important enough to me that there wasn't anything that was going to stop that from happening. So I think if you can find that, then you will find that you don't have a lot of trouble overcoming those roadblocks. Your
Hmm.
goal is going to be much bigger.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the times, like guys, they focus on the outcome like way too much, especially when it comes to like, let's use dating as an example. They see a pretty girl and they want to go talk to her, and they're thinking, I need her phone number, I need to take her on a date, she needs to like me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When really, like, just dumb it down to its very basic form. Like, you should just focus on that being like, you're just a dude that goes for what he wants. Like, approaching a girl is literally just for you. Like, you should just feel like, well, I'm a man, I'm attracted to her, I want to say something. And you doing that, dude, that's a win. It doesn't matter if she likes you or you get her phone number or not. Like the fact that you went after your core desire, which is what you're kind of referring to, is like your goal in life. That's really what matters. So that's what I try to tell guys is to just focus on who are you becoming in that moment, not so much like what is this thing going to get me essentially.
Right. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I think sticking to the basics, and also that self-awareness comes into that, realizing what um, is needed isn't always what it may seem at
Mm,
first, right?
hmm. Yeah, definitely. Let's dive into confidence a little bit because that is, I mean, you search confidence in men on YouTube, you'll probably find thousands of videos just popping up everywhere. That's a big thing in this space. And I know that there's a lot of ways to define it. I've seen a lot of different guys like this is the secret method to confidence and this will do XYZ for you. I think confidence is, I mean, I'll let you kind of give your opinion on it first, but to me, it's very simple what confidence is and how you really attain it. But yeah, in your opinion, what do you think confidence really means and how someone has the ability to cultivate that in themselves?
I think confidence comes down to competence in some degree,
Mm,
but also an awareness of who you truly are,
yeah.
um, and preferably a combination of both.
Mm.
what would you say confidence is?
Yeah, I really resonate with the competence is confidence. I mean, those two things are almost interchangeable at times because like I've always given the example of like riding a bike, right? When you first ride a bike, you fell, you scraped your knee, you probably sucked. You didn't feel very confident about it, but after hundreds and hundreds of reps, now you're riding smoothly. You don't need training wheels. You're going at a normal rate and then you feel pretty good about yourself. You say, wow, I can do this. This is easy. You build that confidence. So I do think confidence is tied very heavily to just your ability to feel like you're competent at something, like you're good at something. But I also think confidence is like you said too, it's a mindset that you have about yourself. It's the choice to be like, I'm gonna do this and it's going to be this way, like just being very intentional with your choices in life and your energy and being like this mentality is I am this person that can ride a bike, or I can be this guy who has an abundant business, who has a flourishing fulfilling life, and also like believing yourself, believing that you can be that kind of person. I think that ties heavily into it too, like your mindset, your belief, and having a good image of who you want to be, I think.
If somebody listening wanted to like just have a few steps that they could take to start gaining more confidence today, say there's somebody listening right now that knows that they're very self-conscious and they
Hmm.
want to have that that air about them, that confidence,
Yeah.
what is something that they could start doing today to
Mm.
build that in themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say my go-to gut reaction to that would be just do something uncomfortable, like whatever that is. If that's taking a cold shower in the morning, first thing, or if that's going for a run when it's cold outside, approaching a girl that you think's really attractive, or going to the gym. Maybe you haven't been to the gym in a while. Like do something uncomfortable because that's going to stretch your zone of growth because then you'll be able to expand on that much further. So do something that you get that feeling inside your stomach. You're like, oh, I don't know about this, or you get anxious. That's something you should do because that is definitely going to build some confidence instantly.
I think that's the best answer that anybody um on the in this space in your space could possibly.
Yeah,
That
I
I,
mean,
I agree
yeah.
100%. Yeah. I was gonna say just doing things that develop confidence, like
Hmm.
at your core level. What develops confidence? Well, when you start respecting yourself, that's when other people begin to respect you.
Facts.
When you begin to respect yourself. So it depends on what you value. Um, if integrity is, I think integrity is one of the best traits that a man can have.
Hmm.
Being willing to do the best or make the best optimal choice and do the best possible thing in every given moment, no matter who is there to see it. That's what
Hmm.
integrity is. If you act like
Yes.
that, you will never have a problem with confidence, ever. You could be
Mm.
around some of the most successful people in the world, but if you live your day in and day out doing all of the right things that you know you should be doing and acting with that integrity, you're you're not going to have a problem. So
Hmm.
that's number one.
Yep.
Um, and then again, even if you don't have like let's say the track record or the qualifications to back up what you believe you need to have confidence,
Hmm.
having some sort of future vision for yourself is going to help a lot in that because even if
Yep.
if your past doesn't say anything good about you, if your future says a lot of really good things about you, that could be just as it could be just as good. You
Mm.
can use that.
Hmm. I like that a lot. It's like I forget the saying exactly, but your past is your past and your future isn't here until you're in the present anyway. So like you have to be literally in the moment to know that you can create a better future. It doesn't have to be the same story as your past.
Right. And I think this should be emphasized because you're in the dating space. I forget who I heard this quote from, but it was something about how uh, men are very interested in a woman's past, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. Women are very interested in a man's future,
Hmm.
where he's going.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind, right? Like if you know where you're going, and it's not just something that you say, but it's something that you actively are working towards every day and making a
Hmm.
reality, it doesn't matter what your life has been like up till now. That in itself is going to be a very attractive quality.
Hmm.
And when you go out and you're trying to like build relationships or get laid or whatever, they're gonna see that. They're gonna sense that right away.
Hmm.
And that says a lot of good things for her because she'd rather marry the guy that she doesn't want, like the high school jock that like now has, is losing his hair and he's a drunk and he's not doing shit and he's got no money. She wants a dude that might have gotten bullied in high school, but when she sees him now and the vision that he has for himself and the things that he's accomplishing in his life and where their future might lead in the next 10 or 20 years, that's more important to her
Hmm.
because now you're somebody that she could stick with long term, and like 10, 20 years down the road she's with an absolute player.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it comes down to really knowing what you want out of life and just literally like to put it lightly, having the balls to go do it and like put in the action to make it happen. Because everybody can say, well, yeah, I want a six-figure business or I want to have an awesome network. I want a great girlfriend. I want XYZ. But how many people are actually willing to like put themselves through the pain, the discomfort, the adversity that comes with achieving those kind of results in life, which, you do that after so many times, so many reps, and you face that pain again and again, and you keep coming back. I mean, it's literally impossible to not be confident when you're doing that, to not have the like ironclad integrity because you're literally like you could be doing it when nobody's there. You could be doing it when everybody's there, but you're sticking to your own commitments and the promises that you made to yourself. So, yeah, man, I think that separates the people that really make a difference in the world and the ones who are just like, yeah, like rah rah, like let's talk about it, and they just never really do anything. I think you have to put your money where your mouth is, essentially.
Right. My question for you is because, and this is something that even I still struggle with sometimes because we have
Mhm.
moments of doubt, we have moments of
Sure,
where we don't live up to our own expectations. What do you
definitely.
think uh like what causes that? What factors might cause something like that? I know for me, like uh I think if you don't have the right habits set up, you're basically setting yourself up for failure.
Hmm.
Um, but I think also a lot of people get discouraged because they hear, that they need to hustle or that they shouldn't be lazy and this and that also
Hmm.
creates that just further, um, it just further amplifies the fear.
Hmm.
And I think it's like the wrong approach. So I want to hear
Yeah.
what you have to say about this, and I had some thoughts to share.
Hmm. Yeah, so you're asking like what kind of like creates the doubt in somebody?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is a great question because this is something that I personally have struggled with for probably the longest time, and even still to this day, I sometimes like find myself coming back to that. So I want to make this point first before I get into my answer because it's not like it's gonna completely 100% go away forever. Like if you're experiencing self-doubt or maybe even a little bit of imposter syndrome, which I sometimes will feel, it's never going to be like, oh, never going to feel it again. There'll be moments where it comes back. It just won't be as strong. And you'll have the number one, the evidence to back up that you're not a poser. You are legit. And you'll have the experience and the confidence to show that you're more capable than you think. But to answer the question, where it comes from, there's a lot of layers to that. I think it comes from a lot of places, like your childhood could be one of them. Maybe you grew up in an environment where your parents kind of doubted you and said, oh, you can't do that, don't try to apply yourself, just take the safe route, right? That's a lot of people's experience. So it can come from parenting, it can come from just environment. I mean, your environment's huge. Like if you're always around people that are telling you, "Oh, it's impossible to be rich," or "I'll never be a millionaire," or it's scary to put yourself out there online, like that's gonna create some type of voice in your mind that tells you this stuff is hard, it's impossible. So your environment is a big factor in it. Um, yeah, there's a lot of reasons. I think the biggest one though is what are your stories and where are you getting those stories from? Because sometimes they're just selling you, a bunch of bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Um, do you want to hear? So this is my input.
Yeah, please.
I think laziness is a buzzword that is ruining a lot of people's mental health.
Mm,
And here's why I say that, because I have been doing what I do for a very long time. And I've noticed in this, I've noticed that this consistent quality of laziness in people is not really, I don't know how to put this. Laziness in itself is not a bad thing. It's rooted in something else, right?
mm,
So if you think, I'm a lazy person and I don't like that about myself. And especially when you have other people out there that are promoting like the hustle, the grind lifestyle and getting up off your ass and this, when you hear that and you're not actually doing that, it
mm,
creates even more self-doubt.
sure.
Right? So here's what I want to say to those people, right? You are not wrong for being lazy. It is not your fault that you're uninspired. The world has created this life for you where you feel completely uninspired to actually do anything. And if you're not inspired to do something, why should you? And that's the thing I want people to like realize is that if
Hmm.
you're not inspired to do something, why should
Hmm.
you? Laziness is always rooted in something deeper. It's a
Yeah,
fear.
for sure.
Maybe it's even depression or just a lack of energy. So it's not about being like, oh, I'm a lazy piece of shit and I need to change. That's not the approach. The approach is to figure out what the root of the problem is, figure out why you have a lack of energy, why you are like just, why you're procrastinating. How can you fix the mood problem and the
Hmm.
psychological problem so that you can actually get yourself to a place where you are inspired and passionate again.
Mm,
If you don't have if you don't if you don't feel inspired and passionate, like nothing you ever do is going to be really um fulfilling.
hmm.
But now that I've said that, right, I'm going to play devil's advocate on myself
Sure.
because you have to start in order to actually gain that momentum in the first place, where you do feel passionate, where you do feel inspired. A lot of the time, that doesn't come out of nowhere, right? They say you have to like stoke a fire before you actually have one.
Hmm.
So that's why I want to remind people about the pressure of the now. Um, the problem with procrastination is the idea that there is always later and that you can do it later. When you
Hmm.
realize that later is a concept that doesn't actually exist in reality,
Yeah.
um, you start to understand that you start to see where the problems have been in your life, which is that whenever the time was to actually do that thing, that time was right now, and you didn't want to do it right now, therefore you missed that opportunity.
Mm,
So I think the best uh, practice that someone can build in their life is acting on opportunities right away as opposed to waiting on them,
hmm.
because you're only ever going to have right now. And
Mm,
if you can utilize that, then you're going to get way, 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 way ahead of the game. Because even if a month from now, 2 months from now, you decide to start hitting the gym instead of like today, um, well, then it will have eventually happened. But now you're still building this habit in your life of getting things done later as opposed to right here and now.
hmm.
So build the habit out of acting out of the moment as opposed to trying to wait for the perfect time and setting, because there's no such thing as a perfect time or setting.
Hmm. No, I agree for that. I agree for sure. As well said, because I think most people will wait, like you said, for the perfect moment and be like, oh yeah, it's got to be lined up this way until I take action, and then I'm gonna do it, or then I'm gonna take action. But the reality is you just have to kind of make the moment. You'd have to make the moment right. Like you can't wait around for it because a lot of times you'll be waiting, you'll be waiting forever. Um, I'll add to that too, because I think that with laziness, I think Tony Robbins said this. He's like, people aren't lazy. They just have unmotivated goals or like uninspired goals, kind of what you were saying, right? Like they don't feel inspired to do something. So their default is like, well, I'm not going to do anything then because I don't feel the need to do so. And I mean, I personally think that like given the way people are, if you strip everything away and like strip away somebody's motivations, their goals, their desires, I think everybody could be pretty lazy. Like
Right.
I'm inherently a very lazy person if I don't
It's
have goals or like I
it's in
don't
our
know what I want to
nature to
do.
be.
Yeah,
It's in our nature to be, right? We
it
we
is.
we scavenge for food, and then once we have that, there's nothing to do. You sit around,
Yep.
you just wait, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
sorry, but it's true. It's
Yeah.
unless you have some sort of biological need that's pushing you forward, that's just your default mode is laziness. So to
Mm-hmm.
develop the idea that that makes you a bad person is like really like self-detrimental.
Right.
Um, it's not, you don't have a laziness problem, you have an energy problem.
Yes. Yes. Or even a focus problem. I think
Hmm.
like that's kind of the default as you're saying is like everybody can be lazy, but I think people identify with a lazy person like that. Like, oh, I'm a lazy person, and they get stuck in that cycle because they think that that's just who they are. But you literally can like change. I mean, you can change anything about yourself when it comes to like your habits, your routines, what you try to focus on. And that's why I think purpose is super important in self-improvement. I mean, especially with men, like that's like 80% of my message is for guys to like get on your purpose, like get on your purpose. Because purpose literally gives you that fire to move forward, to do things, even when you don't want to do them. It instills discipline in you. Um, because it's giving you that direction. So if you don't have that, like I remember not too long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't really have a strong purpose. I didn't have any strong like goals. I didn't even know how to set goals like 5 years ago. I was still in, I was in college and I was going to graduate with a degree. So I was like, okay, let me just get a degree, I guess get a good job and then make a living, right? And that was kind of just what most people think. But that wasn't something that like fueled me to keep going. Like with this, like with the content, the brand, the coaching, everything I do now, it's like I have a non-negotiable for myself. I'm like, I have to do this. Not because, somebody told me to, or not because like it's I don't know, that's something that other people wanted me to do. I just want to do it, and I know the impact that that can create in other people's lives too. So it gives me like a sense of purpose and that sense of like clarity and focus. So yeah, purpose is huge, I think, when it comes to laziness as well.
100%. It's also figuring out what motivates you and drives you because
Yeah.
you mentioned like having someone tell you to do something never really worked well for you.
Yep.
I
Yep.
find that that's very true of a lot of like high status guys that I meet.
Mm-hmm.
Is you've always known what's best for you. You never needed somebody to come in and tell you. It makes you. It's like
Yep.
why, right? So when I was in school, I would think I was honor roll in grade 9 and 10, and then
Mm-hmm.
11 and 12, I just completely fell off, um, where I was barely passing any of my classes, and that was because I realized it was ridiculous and it wasn't in
Yeah.
alignment with my goals. And the
Yep.
more they tried to push me and threaten, consequences if I didn't do it, the more that drove me to just be like, fuck all this. And
Yep.
then you realize, right, we're driven by two different things. Some people are driven by a sense of desperation.
Mm.
Some people are driven by a sense of inspiration.
True.
You have to
Very
figure out
true.
which one you are, right? To give you a quick example of both, the man that's driven by inspiration is like me or you, the person where um, when it comes to something we actually want to do and decided ourselves that it was worth doing, we will put every ounce of our energy and effort forward in doing that thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, when somebody comes in and tells us that we should do it or that we have to do it, all motivation goes out of the window because we feel like we've lost our freedom. Um, and like just like there's other people out there that like they need someone to tell them what to do in order for them to stay focused because they don't have that self-reliance, and that's okay
Sure.
too. If that's what drives you, that's what drives you. But figure out which one you are, and make sure you're operating under the right one, because if you are someone like us that's driven by inspiration and your whole life up until now you've been in circumstances where you're letting other people dictate how you should move, it's no wonder why you feel this complete why you feel completely drained.
Hmm. I, I'm laughing because like that's exactly the reason I could never be like a 9 to 5 employee for the rest of my life. Like it's just that thought of being in a job where people are telling me go do this, go do that, clean this up, go do that. I literally like I suffocate in those environments, which is why I've left I've left every 9 to 5, every part-time job I've ever had is because of that. And like that exact, getting orders from somebody and telling me to do something that I naturally don't have an interest in, very, very hard for me to take it seriously. I mean, I don't know if that's like a character flaw. Like I've just always been like that when, even in school, like what you were saying about like a class that you were failing. I had the same thing. I failed chemistry my senior year of college, and none of that interested me at all. And I'm like, I'm never going to use this. I'm not going to be a chemistry teacher. Why do I need to take this class? But it was a prerequisite to just graduate. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. But it's not like I was waking up every day, whipping out my textbook and studying every minute. Like I just didn't care. I didn't want to do it. Now you could outside looking in, you could say, "Oh, Tino's lazy. He didn't want to study." It's like I just didn't have an interest in chemistry. So it wasn't drawing me in to want to learn about it. So like that's the thing that shifted, at least for me. I mean, maybe somebody's different. Maybe they need some more instruction, like you were saying. But for me, I had to naturally figure out what do I want to know? What do I want to learn about? And then self-improvement, started studying that stuff. Male, female dynamics, started studying that, masculine, feminine energies, all these different things. But I dove into it because I wanted to learn this. Like nobody said, "Hey Tino, go research this, go look up this book, go invest in this course." Nobody told me to do that. I naturally was inclined to take that action. But I think everybody should tap in with themselves and find out like what is your motivation? What does get you up out of bed in the morning? What makes you excited to learn about? Like what do you want to naturally gravitate towards? Because I think everybody has something, but it might not be completely fleshed out yet.
100%. Yeah. What you're describing is a sense of independence and self-trust.
Hmm.
And, if you're asking if those are character flaws, I think we both know the answer to that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're definitely not. I think at one point, depending on who, like at a certain point in your life, you might think that that's, oh, well, that's rebellious, that's lazy, that's XYZ. But hey, man, if you have those traits inside of you, then you're probably meant to be an entrepreneur, or you're not meant to be stuck in a corporate job. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, or you haven't lost your soul yet. You still
Yeah.
believe in something. You still believe in some sort of deeper purpose or passion that is worth following, and you haven't
Hmm.
lost that, then you then you're not lost at all. If you still have
Hmm.
that feeling in you, then chase that by all means. Do whatever you can now to just start chasing that.
Facts.
That's why we're here.
Hey, that's what it is, and that's why I think it's to kind of bring it full circle to what we talked about a little bit ago about like giving back and like contributing. That's the full process. Is like once you kind of take your journey, you go down this route of self-improvement, gaining self-awareness, getting a bunch of life experience. Well, then you can teach the next person. That's like the saying, like reach one, teach one. You're giving back to a community, you're giving back to people that you can serve to show them, hey, I did it this way. You might not do it the exact way, but I can at least give you some wisdom, some knowledge that I learned along the path. So you can maybe navigate some of the mistakes I made so you don't have to do the same things. So you're giving, once you go through the process, I think your natural next step is to, eventually serve others.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said it reminded me of when we had our first call, I said something like this, but I think that
Yeah.
um a wise man can learn from pretty much anyone. A wise man can
Mm.
learn from a fool because he
Yep.
knows that there's something to learn from every person.
Hmm.
Um, if you're sitting there going, I don't have anything to offer the world, why should I even start? I mean, you're already operating into the wrong mind frame
Yeah.
because I guarantee you, even if you've everything that you've done up until now is led you to a pretty like you know shameful situation in your eyes and you think that that's not worth sharing with the world,
Mm-hmm.
that in itself is of value because
True.
if you were to showcase that, people would see what not to do. So it's like
Yep.
people can learn from pretty much anything. So
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, it's not about being perfectly ready. It's about finally realizing that who you are is good enough to go out in the world and start doing something good. The
Mm-hmm.
world wants to see you. They
Yeah.
don't want to see the perfect image of you. They
Mm-hmm.
don't know that. They don't realize that that's not what they want. They want to see the real you because a person will sit there, look at your flaws, and learn more from that than they will watching the man who's doing everything right.
Yep.
So it just I think it comes down to what do you care more about? Do you care more about your image or do you care more about your impact? That everyone's
True.
going to answer that question differently. So you have to answer that question for yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's facts. I think everybody's born with some type of value that they can give the world. Like they have some kind of gift, some kind of strength, some type of natural inclination to, give their gift to the world. I think it's our job to find out what that is. You might take years to get there. You might learn it very early on in life, but I think everybody has something that they can share. And I've seen people too, like and they say this all the time with like the self-improvement, like motivational stuff. There's always somebody smarter than you, always somebody like more successful than you, like smarter, whatever, more wisdom, everything. And there's also people that are below you that don't have as much wisdom, don't have as much knowledge, don't have as much charisma or confidence, but they can also be successful too. So it's like it doesn't matter really how you look or how that is in your perspective. It's like, can you still share what you know and you're sharing value? As long as you're sharing value, people are either going to like it or they're not going to resonate with it. Guaranteed you're going to get at least one person to be like, whoa, that actually
Always.
makes sense.
Oh, for sure. No matter who you're going to have your haters, no matter who you are, and you're going to find somebody that can relate to you as well.
Yeah.
And that's why I encourage. I'm a huge encourager, as you know. I've made it obvious that no matter where you are in life, it's time for you to start putting yourself out there, start putting
Yeah.
yourself on the stage,
Hmm.
um, because that's how you build value, right?
Yep.
So even if you have no value to offer yet, I don't want people to get the wrong information. If you know you don't have value to offer, don't
Sure.
pretend to be something you're not. Talk from life experience, but that is what's going to help you start building that value.
Hmm.
And there's a saying I have. Um, there's a saying in the Muslim faith. I have an Islamic friend that he told me. I thought this was a really beautiful quote, and it's even more beautiful in their language. But basically, translated, it says that um, opportunity is like always now. Therefore, like uh, if you look for it in a future date and time, you're never actually going to truly get there because that opportunity now, if you don't feel ready for it, is the gateway to becoming ready for it. So I know that was kind of mumbo jumbo. What I'm saying is like, if let's say, you want to go out, you have a date tonight and you're like, this girl is way prettier than I even deserve. I don't know how I can even get through this date. Okay, maybe I should back out of this date. I don't know. Maybe this isn't the right timing for me. Dude, go on that fucking date because that's how you're going to get better.
Yeah.
By the time that date is over, no matter what happened, now you are in the position to be better next time.
Hmm.
That's what I think successful people have have realized at a certain point in their life that you must realize, and that's what separates them from the people that stay stuck in the same position.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, even to tie it back to the procrastination, like we were talking about, you're always ready. I believe you're always ready. It's just a matter of are you willing to be uncomfortable in that moment when you do take action? Because I mean, if you've never done something for the first time, it's inevitable you're gonna feel anxiety. You're gonna feel, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. I'm gonna doubt myself. It happens to the best of the best. Like no one is exempt from that. But what you do in those moments of fear, in those moments of doubt, and push forward anyway, if you have courage, if you have resilience, that is what creates the results. Because I mean, everybody like I think people feel like successful really, really high status, high value individuals, like they don't feel fear or they don't feel like they go through any doubts or anything. They do. They just know how to deal with them better than the average person. And that's why they're able to get to that degree because they've faced their own demons countless times again and again until they're like, yo, this is fuel. This isn't something that stops me. So I think that's a big one.
They also go through the most amount of pain. That's what
Yeah,
people miss. The people
exactly.
that you look up to the most go through a lot of pain that you don't see. It's behind the scenes. Um, and that's kind of what's helped them get to that position. Um, so when I meet people that say, "Oh, well, I can't do what you do because I'm going through this, and you don't know how I feel. Like I feel this way and that way." It's like, you have to kind of work around. You have to kind of talk in a way that will resonate with them. But when I hear that now, it's like I just think about how I've handled problems in my life and how I look at the people that I respect handle problems. Is
Hmm.
that they realize that they're not going to evolve unless they keep handling these challenges and these painful situations in the best possible manner.
Yeah.
And that's just like it's almost kind of like a fact of life that once you come to, it brings a lot of peace, is realizing like that pain is always going to be there, just in different forms, and how you handle pain says a lot about you. It
Hmm.
says a lot about you, and it determines your future.
It sure does. Yeah, I agree. Your ability to deal with adverse circumstances will 1000% correlate to your success or lack thereof in life. Like 100%. I think that's like, again, I say this all the time in my content, but it's just so important that guys understand like you need to be uncomfortable. You have to. Otherwise, you're gonna stay like comfort is like the death of masculinity. And if you stay that way, you're never gonna feel like you have that full potential realized because you're always sticking with what you know. You're sticking playing video games every single day, eating Cheetos, drinking soda, like not going to the gym and living your best life. If you stay that way, that's what kind of results you're going to get. So I really think that discomfort and pain and like suffering is very necessary and like those are the things that mold you into the kind of person that you need to become to sustain a successful, healthy, fulfilling life. Because no one wants to talk about that. They just want to see, oh yeah, like look at the mansions, look at the cars, the money, the status, all the stuff, but they don't talk about the pain that comes with getting to that level because that is what really shapes you into that person. It's like I think we said this last time we talked, but like with like lottery winners, when they win the lottery, what's the percentage of people that win the lottery that actually keep that money or advance it? Very, very low. And it's not because, you know, the the money's like it runs out really fast. It's just that person's not equipped to handle that type of money. They don't have the habits or the mindset of somebody with money, like some an abundant person with money. So you have to really like shape yourself by the discomfort and the pain that you experience.
100%. And I think anybody who's ever been through anything has realized that to some degree. What I'm not doing is getting on here telling people that they should chase pain. What I'm saying is that you should accept it and you should
Yeah.
challenge it.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah, you should embrace it, and I think even reframing it into challenge, because challenge is more it's still kind of intimidating to people, but it's it sounds better, I guess, than pain, even though that's kind of the same thing. Like challenge, pain, discomfort, all these
Yeah.
things are one and the same, but you just
Well,
have to
I
approach it.
I think you should challenge pain, right? So when pain
Yeah,
arises, which
yeah,
it will, right? The goal
sure.
isn't to be like, oh God, like how do I like free myself from all pain? It's just like, well, okay, life's pain is a part of life.
Yeah.
Um, it's about accepting it and then challenging it. So
Mm,
when that pain rises, looking at it and being like, okay, like, am I underestimating my ability to handle this in an integrated way? Because
true.
when that pain comes, again, you can run from it or you can challenge it. You can look it in the face and decide like to do something about it. Decide
Mm,
to make it through that pain and to use that pain as fuel for the fire.
100%.
That's a masculine trait.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I've quoted it many, many times on the channel. Was the Way of Superior Man by David Deida, and that was one of the things in the book was saying masculine energy grows through challenge. Like you need to almost
Mhm.
sharpen your sword every day. Like get used to being uncomfortable because that is what's going to make you feel like yo, I can do anything. I can accomplish whatever I put my mind to. Um, because it's like, it's like competition is the best form of improvement. Like if you're literally like even professional athletes, they don't want to play with like the scrub D League. They want to play with the best of the best. They're sharpening their sword. That's how they get better. So, I think if you approach your life that way and look to do that in whatever that looks like in your life, I mean, you'll find yourself in a good spot.
Agreed. Agreed completely. Um, it goes back to what you were saying about competence, right?
Yeah.
Because when you know that you've been through challenges that are, let's say, that were more intense than I don't know whatever you're dealing with now, you
Mhm.
there's no question in your mind that you can overcome it.
Yeah.
So the deeper the challenges that you grow through, yes, the more that masculine side grows in you, and the more your confidence builds as well, because that is a form of competence. You know that you can handle that situation.
Hmm.
Like it's that's why if you were to like if you throw the wrong person into a room full of killers that have been, you know what I mean, in tough situations their whole life, they're not gonna last.
Yeah.
They're gonna crumble
Hmm.
because um they haven't built the same mindset that those men had to build.
Hmm. Yeah. You could tell really quickly too. I have a pretty good indicator now, like a little radar. Like I can look at somebody and be like, yeah, this guy's been through some shit. Like he knows what he's talking about because you could tell like he's lived it. And you could also tell the ones that haven't, like the ones that have maybe talked a little bit of shit but haven't actually like backed it up with action. And be like you I think the more that you work on yourself, it exposes yourself, but then it also exposes other people because you could see, yeah, this guy, he didn't,
Hmm.
or this guy, he didn't, but oh, this guy, he did.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works.
Yeah,
It's
man.
almost like it's like your internal compass is just telling you
Mhm.
who's worthy of being in your company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, dude. Well, man, I could talk about this stuff all night long. I think we definitely shared a ton of value today in this podcast. We're about an hour into it. Um, Yeah, man. Is there anything you wanted to say in terms of like closing statements or anything you wanted to share last minute?
I love giving people something to execute on at the end of anything that
Yeah,
anything I'm involved in. So
sure.
what do you think that if someone were watching this and this was clipped, what's one thing that they can do now to go out there and start getting more of what they want and also becoming a more masculine version of themselves?
Hmm. I think the first thing that you should do is to have a vision. So know like what you're trying to do, like have a plan. Like just don't just go into it blind. I mean, you can as long as you're taking action, to be honest, like you'll eventually kind of figure things out, but have some type of plan to be like, all right, I'm gonna do XYZ. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm not interested in. Have a strategy to go about taking action and just literally that's really the two simple step process I would say is like plan something and then execute. And when you execute and you notice, hey, it didn't really work or this wasn't what I thought it was, you replan and then you execute again. So just keep taking action, keep, keep planning stuff that you want to do for your development. Could be going to the gym right now. It could be improving your finances. How's that going to work? Are you going to get a new job? Like research different careers. So figure out like what you want and from that, start taking action. And the smallest step is an action. Like literally buying a gym membership is taking action and then starting to go and like just build that momentum from there. So I would say, yeah, just know what it is you want and then start taking action to get it.
Agreed. Yeah, that's a good way to end things.
Yeah. What about you? Any last closing statements or anything you wanted to add to that?
I'd say move how the dream version of yourself would move. Do what he would
Mm,
do.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, be your ideal self now. I dig it. Sweet. So awesome, guys. I appreciate Dylan for hopping on here and having an awesome podcast. I think we really talked about a lot. We gave a lot of value. We gave a lot of really nice insights so you guys can literally start taking action today, start implementing the things that we mentioned in this podcast into your life now. And yeah, if people wanted to know more about you and what you got going on, where can they find you?
You want to know what's going on with me? I just had a power outage,
Yeah.
but and that's good
Yeah.
timing.
Perfect timing.
There we go. We're back. So if you want to follow me, I'm posting every day now on social media, so you can find me on Instagram at Damon Wylde,
Nice.
Damon Wylde. Facebook, same thing. LinkedIn, I got you.
Nice. Yeah, guys, and if you want to see, I'll leave all his links down in the comments section as always if you guys want to check him out and kind of discover more of his content as well. So if you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all that fun YouTube stuff. You know where to find my links, they're all in the description. And yeah, man, I wanted to say thanks again, man, for hopping on. This was an awesome conversation. I'd love to do it again sometime.
I would too, man, and I'm very flattered that you had me on. I appreciate it, and we need more guys like you out there. So
Yeah.
please keep going at full fucking speed ahead.
Yeah, brother. Likewise, man. We both got to do our thing because I think that's what, inspires the next generation of guys to go out and do their thing.
100%. Yeah. We
Hell
we
yeah.
all we all we're all looking around to see what's best, and a lot of us want to do the right thing and we don't know what that is. So the more that we see it in action, the more it gives us an opportunity to find the same within ourselves.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts, man. Setting the example. Yeah, that's everything. That's everything. So cool, guys. We're gonna get going. We're gonna wrap up here. Have a busy week ahead. Keep taking action. Do everything we said in this video. Watch it back a couple times. You know how this thing goes. And yeah, guys, we'll see you next time. Deuces.